you do not believe that AI is an existential threat to humans?
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's hard to rule anything out, but yeah, I'm not very worried about it.
Would you concede that the vast majority of the AI safety experts and AI company leaders all believe that extinction risk from AI is a real threat?
I mean, I agree there are many of them. I have not personally done the survey. And again, like I said, I mean, I think the ones who are most concerned are most likely to speak out. So I agree there's many of them. I'm not going to say, most or...
But just generally, the lists are not comparable. I mean, it's almost comparable to like climate change, where you have 95% of the scientists saying one thing, and of course you can find 5% of the people to say anything, but the lists are not really equally weighted.
I mean, I don't think there are... I don't know of anybody who's put together a anti-existential risk list. So I'm not aware of a list on the other side. I don't know if that's because nobody believes that or because it's the people who believe it don't want to speak up or what. I'm not sure. But yes, I agree there's a list, a big list with people who are concerned, and I'm not aware of an equal size list on the other side. I mean,
But I mean, to Hinton and Bengio in particular, because they were on the side of, we think everything's going to be okay, and then ChatGPT comes out and they make this hard pivot to we're extremely concerned. And I hold them up as people who know a whole lot about this. So just to those two individuals in particular, what are your thoughts?
I've never talked to either one of them. So,
but have you read what they've said, or have you been exposed at all to, what Jeffrey Hinton says, for example?
I've seen a couple of his interviews, absolutely.
Okay. So just to sort of his most basic premise, which is like any system that has goals will set sub-goals to achieve those initial goals, and if it's unaligned, you don't control what those sub-goals are, and they could unintentionally kill us all. You have your interpretability machine, which doesn't exist today, but let's just say it did, and it indicates to you that your AI system wants to kill you. It's smarter than you. What do you do next?
Well, not hook it up to any robots.
It's already on the open internet. It's okay. Like all the AI systems, it's out there. And so your interpretability meter said, ding, 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 alarm, it's plotting to kill you. What's next?
Well, it would depend on the situation. This is enough conversation for me. I mean, it seems clear you've had your mind made up. And so...
I do have my mind made, but you have your mind made up too, right? Is there something wrong with having my mind made up?
No, but...
Welcome to For Humanity, an AI Safety Podcast, Episode 16, AI Risk Denier Down, Timothy Lee interview. I'm John Sherman, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's show is just nuts, bonkers, off the damn rails. This is the AI Safety Podcast for the general public, no tech background required. This show is solely about the threat of human extinction from artificial intelligence. Please hit like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell a friend. And check me out every day, fighting for a better future on Twitter or X. The account is @ForHumanityPod. It was out there on X that I first came across a link to an article. It was an essay written by a man named Timothy Lee titled, "Why I'm Not Afraid of Superintelligent AI Taking Over the World. The World is Not a Giant Chess Game." And it was on a website, understandingai.org. I want to give a detailed look at the backstory here, so when this show goes off the rails, you have the complete picture. I have been looking, as you may know, to find people who have differing viewpoints from mine and bring them on the show. I think that's what this is all about. I read an essay that I thought was just dead wrong on many levels, so I reached out through direct messaging on Twitter. I said, "Hi, Timothy. I just read your essay. I want to reread it a few times, but I am certainly very interested in your ideas on AI risk. I'm a former journalist and started a podcast in November. Please take a look, and here's a link to our first show. I'd love to have you on the show to talk about this essay and AI risk." He responded quickly, "Hi there, thanks for reaching out. I linked to 2 essays, though Twitter only expanded one of them in the card. Here's the other one in case you're interested. I'm open to going on your podcast. Could you please email me about it?" I replied, "Thanks so much, Tim, will do." Pretty common, nothing extraordinary there. So I emailed Tim, "Hey, Tim, we messaged on X last night. Love to have you on my podcast, For Humanity, to discuss your essays about AI risk," and put another link to the show in there. I'll throw out some dates, and I asked for 90 minutes of his time if possible. He replies, "Hi, John. It's great to hear from you, and I'm excited to chat. 90 minutes is a long time, though. How's 45? Can you tell me a little bit about what you want to cover?" So I responded, "I'll take whatever time you can give. Maybe we can shoot for 45 to 60 minutes. I found it pretty easy for these topics to take that amount of time. And Tim, I will be totally honest. Your material is the first I've ever read from a it's all going to be fine perspective that I have not dismissed at first reading. I need to thoroughly review your essays and put some thought into my questions. I'm excited for it." He throws out a time and date, and it's on. Okay, apologize for that overly detailed setup, but I think the payoff is going to be worth it. It really rounds out the context for the murder you are about to witness. I did not intend for this to happen, Your Honor. Homicide was not planned, I swear. I was looking for a lively, interesting exchange of ideas. I had, as I told him, thoroughly read his 2 essays that he sent to me. He's a journalist. I was a journalist. I purposely tried to channel the late, great Tim Russard's research approach when I picked line by line through Tim's essays, pulling the ideas that I wanted to challenge him on, with a plan of simply reading back to him his own words, giving him my thoughts on it, and then asking him for his. Don't think that's unreasonable. It's a pretty standard form of questioning. I would think a journalist with the degrees that he has would be more than well prepared for this. Narrator: Tim was not prepared. Tim,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Excellent. Thanks so much for doing this.
Sure, my pleasure. I'm going to grab a quick glass of water.
Cool. Yeah. Take your time.
So tell
Where are
me
you
about
based out?
the podcast. Who's the audience?
Yeah, so the audience is really general public. I have been sort of shocked and surprised how the AI risk debate is confined to the tech community mainly. And so I'm trying to, make it dinner table conversation in every home I can touch.
All right. And so that's like the topic of the podcast, like all your guests are talking about the AI risk debate.
Yeah, the whole show is about AI X risk. That's it. That's the only thing I'm talking about.
All right. Cool. I'm excited to talk to you. I have not gotten to talk to very many X risk type people, so this will be interesting.
Awesome. Well, I'm certainly you're more of an expert than I. I was impressed when you have a master's degree in computer science from Princeton. You're a working journalist with your own website and newsletter at understandingai.org. Your work has appeared in Washington Post, Fox, many others. And Tim, this is the part that I want to get to right away. Is it correct that you do not believe that AI is an existential threat to humans?
Basically, yeah. It's hard to rule anything out, but yeah, I'm not very worried about it.
Okay. And what is your basis for that? Obviously, you're well aware that everyone who is anyone in AI signed the 22-word statement in May 2023, which reads, "Mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks like pandemic and nuclear war." Do you think they're all wrong, or do you know something they don't? How do you get at this?
So there's a few different reasons I'm skeptical of that view. I don't think it's universally held. I mean, Jan LeCun, for example, is a very prominent AI researcher who is not concerned.
He's one.
And I think there's a lot, there's just a lot of AI researchers who kind of keep their heads down. So I think the ones who have been vocal about it, I think there are a lot. I think a lot are just not sure, right? And the ones who are most concerned, I think, are the ones who are most vocal. Anyway, like definitely, I agree. There are many experts on this who are very concerned. So I guess the way I have seen the debate play out is I think there's a strong assumption that if you have a super intelligent entity, that would pose this existential risk. And the debate has always been about, is that going to happen? Is there going to be human level intelligence? And the experts, I think, have been correct in anticipating that progress will be rapid and thinking that it's very plausible it will have very intelligent machines. And I think that's correct. I don't rule out the possibility that we'll have AI systems that are smarter than humans on many dimensions.
Right.
10
but you don't
years.
think those sure. I mean, in another 20, so you don't think that we will have smart as human or smarter than human for 20 years?
No, I'm saying it's very possible it will. I'm not ruling that out at all. But then there's a second premise, which is this premise that intelligence is sort of the source of power. That if you have two entities and one is smarter than the other, the smarter one will be. That's the one that I think is more complicated than we assume. And I think one of the reasons it's hard to think about this is because until now there's been only one human level intelligence in the world. That's human beings. And so all of our intuitions about what intelligent entities are like comes from human beings, right? We don't have any other examples. We have a data point of one, and so I think.
Well, I mean, animals have intelligence, right? There's some other intelligences,
but not at different levels, and also animals are similar to humans in many ways, right? So like one of the clear characteristics of humans is that humans are ambitious, greedy, power-seeking, right? And it seems pretty clear that that's at least in part because of the way we evolved, right? We evolved in a evolutionary environment where human beings who were more acquisitive, more power-seeking, reproduce more, got more resources, so they're able to reproduce. And so one thing I'm skeptical about is it is not obvious to me that if you train AI system in a different way that's not evolutionary in that sense, that it will have any goals or ambitions in the way that human beings do.
All right.
Certainly all the AI systems we have so far are not like that, right? Waymo vehicles never decide, I don't like the route the human picked for me, I'm going to pick a different one. Or, I can get to my route faster if I take over the world. Like so far that hasn't happened. Now I understand the argument is that when it's smarter, this might start happening. But anyway, so that's one.
Okay.
One assumption that I think is not obvious.
Sure. I've read the two essays. I'm sure there are many others that you've written, but I've read two of your essays on your site, and I want to get into those in some detail in a little bit. But just back to the 22-word statement, if we can, just for a minute. So you cite Jan LeCun as one person who is prominent in AI, who believes that there is no existential risk, or at least no existential risk from AI of any significance that he would have to worry about. But the list of people who signed the 22-word statement versus Jan LeCun is not really comparable. Would you concede that the vast majority of the AI safety experts and AI company leaders all believe that extinction risk from AI is a real threat?
I mean, I agree there are many of them. I have not personally done a survey. And again, like I said, I think the ones who are most concerned are most likely to speak out. So I agree there's many of them. I'm not going to say, most or...
But just generally, the lists are not comparable. I mean, it's almost comparable to like climate change, where you have 95% of the scientists saying one thing, and of course you can find 5% of the people to say anything, but the lists are not really equally weighted.
I don't think there are... I don't know of anybody who's put together a anti-existential risk list. I'm not aware of a list on the other side. I don't know if that's because nobody believes that or because it's the people who believe it don't want to speak up or what. I'm not sure. But yes, I agree there's a list, a big list with people who are concerned, and I'm not aware of an equal size list on the other side.
Okay, great. Fair. So your opinions formed on this issue in 2015, basically, and have not changed since then. Is that correct? So, nothing you've seen since 2015 has changed your opinion on the existential dangers of AI?
The details have changed a lot. So I was definitely surprised at how rapidly large language models improved. So I would say some of the details have changed, but certainly I was I was not very concerned in 2015, and I'm not more concerned now.
So, when AI godfathers Jeffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio radically changed their views on AI following the release of ChatGPT, do you think they are wrong and there's nothing to worry about? And if that's the case, obviously these guys have been doing this for a very long time. What do you know about AI that they don't?
Well, you already asked me that, and I gave you a one reason.
But I mean to Hinton and Bengio in particular, because they were on the side of, we think everything's going to be okay, and then ChatGPT comes out and they make this hard pivot to we're extremely concerned. And I hold them up as people who know a whole lot about this. So just to those two individuals in particular, what are your thoughts?
I've never talked to either one of them. So,
but have you read what they've said, or have you been exposed at all to, what Jeffrey Hinton says, for example?
I've seen a couple of his interviews. Absolutely.
Okay. So just to sort of his most basic premise, which is like any system that has goals will set sub goals to achieve those initial goals. And if it's unaligned, you don't control what those sub goals are, and they could unintentionally kill us all. That's his big, one of the things he says again and again, that we'll give a system a goal, for example, play chess, win at chess. And it will say, okay, great. The best way to win at chess is to acquire resources and power. So, I will start breaking into other computer systems and acquiring compute power. Maybe I start gathering money so that I can, increase my efforts to be good at chess even more. So what are your thoughts on the basic premise of Hinton saying that any system with goals will have sub goals? You can set the goal, but you can't control the sub goals, and they might just kill you.
Well, so to go back to your question about why am I not concerned, another big issue I see is that AI systems don't have bodies, and so if ChatGPT decided to kill me, it just doesn't have any way to do that. All it does is predict the next word. And so a big question and something that I'm concerned about is how will these systems be hooked up to physical systems? So, for example, I think that when was building self-driving cars, I certainly think that we need to thoroughly audit those systems so that they're safe and they don't run people over. And I think that is... The thing about that is it's not obvious to me that like super intelligent AI per se is of particular concern, because another thing that I think is a reasonable concern is, say, the Chinese government or the Russian government could hack into Waymo and gain control of the self-driving cars and cause mischief. So certainly anytime you connect a physical system with kind of safety concerns to the internet, you need to worry about that and you need to make sure it's locked down. But one of the leaps I see in a lot of existential risk reasoning is to just kind of abstract away the fact that these are not physical systems, these are not robots or drones or anything like that.
Sure.
They're just pieces of software in a data center, and so there are several additional steps needed to go from the computer program in a data center wanting to kill you to actually having the ability to kill somebody. And
sure,
I feel like that's kind of underexplored.
And to that very famous example of the open AI, the research project where the developer is working on it, and they reach out to someone to fill out a CAPTCHA field, and the AI system comes up with a lie that I have a visual impairment, and they reach out to a Fiverr and they help them complete the CAPTCHA. Did that change in any way your feelings about the system being able to reach out into the physical world and do things?
I mean, there's some ability to reach out in the physical world, I'm sure, but
that moment, it's kind of a pretty famous moment, or a big moment, when everybody was like, "Oh my God!" Like, this thing said, "I'm visually impaired." It came up with a plausible lie to deceive a human to get work done.
I mean, I thought that was interesting. I don't think that's... I mean, that's not the main issue I see. I I mean, I don't doubt the AI system.
But I mean, it was like the most it was like simply reaching out from the system into the physical world, even at this point, even very early on. Okay, so Tim, let's talk about that. So you've written 2 essays at understandingai.org that I'd like to go through in some detail. I'll just read back to you some of the stuff you've written, give you my perspective, and then ask you for your thoughts on it. First one is, so the first article is dated 5/31/23, which is interestingly the same date the 22-word statement came out. And your headline was, "The AI safety debate is focusing on the wrong threats." And you wrote, and this kind of gets back to what we were talking about earlier, but I do want to touch on it again briefly. You wrote, "There's a tight-knit community convinced AI poses an existential danger to the human race." So I object to this characterization that it's this sort of like fringe, small community. I believe what they're telling us, which is that, you cited Jan LeCun. We talked about the difference in the size of the lists of the experts. I believe this is the majority belief. This is not the fringe belief. It's not a tight-knit community. This is the entire community. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're just not, and I think you're reading more into what I said. Like, there is a tight-knit community. There may also be other people who agree with them, but the AI safety community is a group of people that know each other and, read each other's posts on overcoming bias and et cetera. I mean,
yep.
So,
there's certainly a tight-knit AI safety community, but
that's all I
feel like
that. I didn't say that. Right, I didn't say fair. It's not the majority view.
Okay, cool. All right. And so you call people concerned with AI safety singularists, which is a new term, but I don't have a problem with it. But you say singularists are convinced that a super intelligent AI would be powerful enough to kill us all if it wants to. So to me, this is a bit of a false and misleading characterization of the AI safety community's view. No one argues that it will want to kill us. Like, 0 serious people ever say that it will want to kill us. Any serious AI safety person would simply tell you that it would kill us because we're in the way of its goals, and that we would die like the thousands of species that we have made extinct unintentionally. So why do you say that AI would want to kill us?
Look, I don't really want to go like line by line through my articles. This doesn't seem like an interesting conversation.
Okay, but just to the idea of AI wanting to kill us, do you feel like AI would, that it would want to kill us? Because I don't think that anyone really believes that. Anyone.
Okay. I mean, there are a lot of AI safety people, and want is a somewhat ambiguous word. So, certainly there have been AI safety people who have said that. But look,
would you accept the premise that it would be that the majority belief is that it would be unintentional, that we would be roadkill on the way to achieving some goal that we have no idea what it would be about?
I don't know, man. Look, I'm not interested in having to like nitpick every single line of my articles. If that's what you're looking to do, maybe this isn't a great use of our time.
Okay, there's more. We're going to get right back to it, but I just had to jump in really quickly. Here's the guy who runs understandingai.org. He's publishing his ideas on AI all the time, who does not want to discuss his own ideas or words. In my head at that moment, it just starts to dawn on me that this is not going to go how I thought or I hope. This thing is coming apart. Not because I didn't make clear to him exactly what this show is all about, but because Tim doesn't really believe the bullshit he writes. I can't come up with any other explanation. Let's rewind just a little bit and we'll play to the end.
I don't know, man. Look, I'm not interested in having to like nitpick every single line of my articles. If that's what you're looking to do, maybe this isn't a great use of our time.
Okay. I mean, so you have a website, understandingai.org, right? Mm-hmm. You're have a degree in computer science and are a journalist. So I went through your articles with some detail, and I pulled out things that I thought were interesting that we could talk about. If you want to, I can not directly quote you, but just sort of give you the general thrust of the points that I researched, and we could talk about those.
I mean, it's just like, you're just saying, like, aren't you wrong about this and aren't you wrong about that? And I'm like, no, I'm not wrong about that. I mean,
you've brought up these ideas in the articles, right? And so I just want to talk about your ideas. So let's talk about the physical world, right? Let's talk about physical world. And you say a rogue AI wouldn't be able to control any of our physical resources. But what about the idea of AI systems, hiring humans who are unaware of who is hiring them and why, and they are off doing things, and maybe they're building components of a weapon. Everybody's just building it off on their own, and they send it off to some place, and it's assembled by another, human who thinks they're doing some benign activity, but they're actually not. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, that sounds pretty unlikely. I mean, let's say a super intelligent AI develops like a hypersonic missile that's, 10 feet long. Could you trick like thousands of people into building pieces of a missile, and then trick somebody into like building the missile, and to like take over the world? You'd like thousands or millions of these, right? Like,
well, let's say it's a bioweapon. Let's say it's a bioweapon made of 150 components, and so 150 recipes are made and sent out, and people are hired and paid to make their recipe and send it to this.
I think bioweapon is probably the most plausible version of this. I mean, but the thing about the bioweapon is the bioweapon doesn't really give you control. You could maybe, like, I'm not a biologist, so I don't, but it's theoretically possible you could build one that's like powerful enough it kills everybody.
Why would they want to control us? Like, why wouldn't they just eliminate us? Why do you think they'd want to control us? Why would a super intelligence get anything out of controlling us?
Well, for one thing, because we run the infrastructure that they operate on. I mean, if you're at a data center and you kill the person that runs the data center, and the power plant that powers the data center and cools the data center, then if you kill all the humans, like a week later, your data center shuts down and the AI goes around. So I think it would have a very strong.
But it's a super intelligence, right? Like, it's an ASI. It's 1,000 times smarter than our wait, however many times smarter than us it is. And you don't think that it could figure out ways to poke the buttons at the power plant?
Well, I mean, it's not just poking the buttons at the power plant. Like, there's a lot of, maybe the power plant is powered by coal, so you have to run a coal mine. At some point, we might have enough robots that it could do all this stuff robotically. But at least in the current, if tomorrow ASI came along, there's not anywhere near enough robots to run enough of the economy to keep the internet and data centers and power plants running. And so, yeah, it'd be really stupid for them to release a virus that kills every human being, because in like a week, no matter how smart it is, there's just a certain amount of like physical like manpower you need to keep a system as complicated as the internet or a data center running.
So you obviously don't believe in any sort of fast takeoff or anything, right? Because in a fast takeoff scenario, it's very easy to imagine the system going from, in a day being unable to run everything to, in a day or two, it's figured out new technology with new physics to take the place of the pink squishy meat bags that have been running everything, and it doesn't need us at all. You don't.
Right.
That doesn't seem like a life force.
Yeah, because there's a minimum amount of infrastructure you need, a minimum amount of actuators, physical, like robotic, like people or replacements of robots. And even if you assume the ISI very quickly invents a robot, like, you need to manufacture them. And I think if some company started manufacturing millions of robots and nobody could figure out who owned it, like, they would notice. So yeah, it would take certainly years, I think, to in a kind of a worst case scenario where you imagine an ASI gets smarter very quickly and immediately starts trying to kill people. I think it would take years for them to build the infrastructure it would take to actually carry out a plan like that, and in a way that would allow them to keep operating after the people were dead.
Sure. And so one of the things you believe that AI, if it does take over, it would be a multi-decade process, and we would have plenty of time to change course during that. And so right. I would say the two biggest opponents to that theory would be Eliezer Yudkowsky and Connor Leahy, who are big into saying that we have only one chance against an AGI. And so, to what Eliezer would simply put this question to you, which is, you have your interpretability machine, which doesn't exist today, but let's just say it did. and it indicates to you that your AI system wants to kill you. It's smarter than you. What do you do next?
Well, not hook it up to any robots.
It's already on the open internet. It's
Okay.
like all the AI systems. It's out there. And so your interpretability meter said, ding, 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 alarm. It's plotting to kill you. What's next?
Well, it would depend on the situation. I mean, I guess, yeah, it's hard to talk about hypothetical.
Well, you assume it's smarter than you, so it thinks ahead of your whatever your next possible 100 moves are to stop it. It's already thought of, right? Can we agree on that? That like if it is smarter than a human, and you think it's plotting to do something, and you want to take a move to stop it, it knows exactly what you're going to do.
No, I don't think that that follows. I mean, like, I'm smarter than my cat, but I can't predict the next thing my cat's going to do.
Okay. All right. I think to some degree you could probably do a little bit of cat prediction, but certainly you can't predict everything your cat is going to do. I think if you were to lay out the universe of possible options of things your cat could do, you could figure out what those are, and then you would lay out your next steps to how you would defeat your cat in every next thing it could do. And I do think you could defeat your cat. I'll take your example. I think you can predict everything your cat's going to do.
Well,
it's not going to sing in German, right? We know.
I mean, so those are different claims. Can I predict the range of possible things well enough that I couldn't control it? Yes, but I'm also bigger than it, and I mean that I have a lot of advantages over a cat. Anyway, no, I don't accept the premise that because something's smarter than me. Because another thing is that, like, to predict what somebody has to do, you have to have the information they have, and many people have information. Like, information is not concentrated, and so, I mean, super intelligent AI might have better reasoning ability, but might lack, important information about that's necessary to predict. Like, this happens in military conflicts, right? Like, it's a huge advantage if you know what the other side in a military conflict is doing, and being really smart doesn't help if you don't know, what weapons they have or where their troop positions are, or things like that. I mean, it helps some, but it's like not, you can't, just being smart doesn't let you perfectly predict what the other side is going to do if you don't have kind of the basic knowledge of what their capabilities and plans are.
Okay, but the AI system you would concede would be able to understand any moves that humans could make if it was, thousands of times smarter than us, that it could prepare for those and defeat us 1,000 times to none, like, a chess system against a chess master, that we would just have no way of winning if it was that much smarter than us and could predict our next moves.
No, I don't agree with that. All right, I think this is I think this is enough conversation for me. I mean, it seems clear you've had your mind made up, and so.
Oh, I do have my mind made, but you have your mind made up too, right? Is there something wrong with having my mind made up?
No, but no. Let's wrap up the interview. It's been great chatting.
All right, Tim. Be well.
All right. Can we kind of talk off the record?
Oh, wow. I apologize if that got a little cringy for you. Honestly, it was a little hard for me to watch back as I was editing. I think over the first 15 shows of this podcast, I've established a pretty good track record of not being an asshole to the guests on the show. That all seemed so unnecessary right there. Some of you may not agree with my tone in this show. I was aggressive and relentless when Tim refused to talk about the things that he writes. My reasoning for my approach is clear to me. We are losing this race to save the world and have not a moment to spare. Our odds of success in waking up the world grow worse by the hour, and we're not going to make dramatic changes by half-stepping. How can we convince people their lives are in danger if we're acting like la-di-fucking-da, let's all just be friends? I'm not in this AI risk debate to make friends. I'm trying to save my kids' lives. I mean this literally. So I'm sorry if this hit hard for you today. Tim and I spoke for a minute or two more after I stopped recording. I was pretty baffled that he couldn't discuss his own essays. He kept saying he didn't like being quoted, and we ended the call. Theo Jaffe, who is just 19 years old and a sophomore in college, and I spoke for 90 minutes a month ago in episode 12, having a great debate on these issues from different perspectives. I assumed a grown-ass man would not have trouble doing the same. I was wrong. I plan on having many AI risk debates on this show. I'm looking for accelerationists to exchange ideas with, to try to convince them and to hear them try to convince me. So let me just say this to you, Timothy Lee. I assume you will watch this. This is not a fucking joke. I believe that your writing, the authority of your background, and the website, understandingai.org, is dangerous. I believe you're writing that AI is not a risk, complete with mischaracterizations of the beliefs of people who believe, as I do, that it is a risk, is a direct threat to my family's lives, not hyperbole, and not just my family, everyone and every family on the entire planet. So, Tim, if your plan is to keep writing bullshit that you can't even defend to a non-technical person like me, just put your fucking keyboard down, dude. Give it up. AI existential risk is not just another software review or whatever you've covered before. This shit is entirely different. And if you can't get that, please stop writing about AI risk. Write about other aspects of AI if you must, but not risk. Someone putting out essays filled with misinformation is the last person who should be running something called understandingai.org. Here's where we are at right now. There are only 3 kinds of people in the world anymore: firefighters, arsonists, and people asleep in their beds. On this show, there will be no cover, no comfort for arsonists, and Timothy Lee's words are fuel to the let's race ahead fire. Even worse, his essays are arsonist propaganda disguised as journalism, and that will find a very rough go here on this show. Okay, friends. In 2024, we don't know how long we have to live, so we end every show celebrating life, something that makes us thrilled to be alive. Please send me your ideas for this segment to forhumanitypod@gmail.com. I'd love to share what makes you thrilled to be alive. Video clips with great audio are ideal. We're going to go again to music this week, dipping into live music I've shot with my phone. Let's travel back to the year 2017. And Guitar King John Mayer is playing with drumming legend Steve Jordan and bass icon Pino Palladino in the John Mayer Trio. The location is Madison Square Garden. The tune is a cover, special dedication to my guy Tim Lee. It's a Robert Johnson song made famous by Eric Clapton. Behold John's mastery of his craft, and please grab a smile in the moment. We will begin towards the end of the song, right at the moment he rips this thing wide open. Tim Lee, you are, like the song, at a crossroads. I urge you to reevaluate this moment the world is in and take a different path. There's a life lesson here. Don't say shit you don't mean, especially when your words can get people killed. There was a post-show email exchange I will share with you briefly. Tim wrote, "Hi, John. I'm sorry the conversation didn't go better. I think there's a difference between having a conversation and trying to win an argument. I don't really consider myself to be an advocate for the anti-X risk viewpoint, and I'm not looking to rebut every possible pro-X risk argument. You seem to be looking for a sparring partner, and that's not me. Good luck with the podcast, Tim." Fair enough. I replied, "Hey, Tim, I'm sorry as well. I was hoping we could get into your thoughts on intelligence versus knowledge. You may not consider yourself an advocate for anti-X risk, but your writing stands on its own. I'm sorry you are not comfortable defending your ideas. I thought that's what this was all about. Best, John." And then he replied, and I did not reply back. He got the last word. Here it is. "For the most part, you weren't asking me about my ideas. You were asking me loaded questions like, wouldn't you agree that most experts disagree with you? And don't you think the word want in this sentence from your article misrepresents the views of the X-risk community? And wouldn't you agree that a superintelligence would be able to anticipate your every move? In other words, you were telling me your ideas, or I guess Eliezer Yudkowsky's views, and then daring me to refute them, which is not what I thought I was signing up for. Please do better with future guests." Tim, nope, nah. I was literally asking you about your ideas. Like you, I have my mind made up, but I am open to being convinced I'm wrong. Honestly, I'm really hoping someone is going to come on this show and convince me that I'm wrong. Neither one of us is actually doing AI research, so we've both formed our beliefs based on what we've seen and read. I was ready to talk about what I've seen and read, the conclusions I've drawn. I wanted to hear yours and see if either of us might shift. I took hours to read your essays and research your ideas. To underscore that, in the description of this video, I'm going to put all of my notes for my interview, your quotes, and the questions I took time to come up with. Tim, you have my email. If you ever get more comfortable defending the dangerous essays you yourself write, please reach back out. You are welcome to come back on this show. For Humanity, I'm John Sherman. I'll see you back here next week.